Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
God bless that jury. When I heard there was a verdict in, I was at first stunned. And then, of course, I was filled with hope because I thought there was no way they would come back that quickly unless there was unanimity. And how could there be unanimity among that diverse jury on anything other than guilt? So much has been said about this, what it means, what it doesn't mean, what it imports, what it does not. I want to just, if you don't mind, start with something I came across this morning. It was the initial police report that was posted by the Minneapolis Police Department, posted May 25th, 2020. And it says, well, it actually has a headline: "Man dies after medical incident during police interaction." On Monday evening, shortly after 8 p.m., officers from the Minneapolis PD responded to the 3700 block of Chicago Avenue South on a report of a forgery in progress. Officers were advised that the suspect was sitting on top of a blue car and appeared to be under the influence. Two officers arrived and located the suspect, a male believed to be in his 40s, in his car. He was ordered to step from his car. After he got out, he physically resisted officers. Officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs and noted he appeared to be suffering medical distress. Officers called for an ambulance. He was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center, where he died a short time later. At no time were weapons of any type used by anyone involved in this incident. That's the initial police report. That the officers handcuffed him and then noticed he was in some kind of medical distress and immediately called for an ambulance, and he was dead shortly after arrival at the hospital. That's the police report. Imagine how many other police reports are fictions like this one. And imagine, but for that teenage girl who saw something awful happening in front of her eyes. Darnella Frazier. She was 17 years old. And she had the intelligence. She changed everything by virtue of what she did. Because save for that video, right? The story that the police put out as the report of what had happened on South Chicago that night would have been, well, the truth. It's the police report. That police report said absolutely nothing about the fact that they put this poor man face down on the ground, and then took his life in an excruciating way. As our president said, in broad daylight, murdered him. And then went back and made their report. A fiction. It was a fiction. Oh, they noticed he was in distress right after they handcuffed him. Oh, of course, they called the police. What good souls. And sadly, he was dead. But for Darnella Frazier, there would be no justice in this case. Of course, think, try to even conceive of all the other cases. People murdered by police. And then fictions posing as police reports are what is reported. The media report that a man, after a complaint of a forgery, died in police custody of some kind of medical ailment. They transported him immediately, but he died. No weapons had been used. Imagine how many people's murders have been covered up in this way. We know now that has to be the case. And one of the things that, without this video, without her, without this teenage girl, this would have just been another Black man being murdered in broad daylight by police and never, ever seeing even a whiff of truth or justice about his last moments. And the fact that she kept that video going from the beginning until the end, that was the star witness. We all, the world, became witnesses to this murder. And it is why, because of that video, that George Floyd's name became known and shouted on streets all over this nation, night after night after night. A Washington Post article about this girl points out that she has never drawn attention to herself. We saw her as a witness, early witness in the trial. And the fact that she had been so affected and still was affected by what she had seen. She said he was suffering. He was in pain. It seemed like he knew it was over for him. He was terrified. And she has brushed back all efforts to make her a hero. She has said, when given some award by some group, it's just a lot to take in. It's just a lot to take in. And she said that she felt so helpless. And the only thing she could do was what she did. Darnella Frazier. Say her name. But for her. And also the other thing, and the reason that I was, out there early, even though nobody believed it, I said there would be a conviction, right? Was not just the video, but it was mostly the video. It was also the fact that the other thing that always gets in the way of holding police accountable for these murders is that blue line cracked in this case. Other officers, many other officers, including the chief of police, testified for the prosecution, which almost never happens. Now, you can argue that they did it because they knew that video indicted them all if they didn't say this was not one of us. This is someone who didn't do what we have been trained to do. Right? So you had Danielle Frazier, a teenage girl, taking her little niece out to get some ice cream. And you had the police seeing this video and knowing that they needed to step away from their usual defense of one of their own. And then what do you get? You get a semblance of justice. But as you know, before the jury's verdict came down, police in Columbus, I believe, Ohio, right, shot dead a 15-year-old girl who had a knife and was wielding it. We know, of course, about the 13-year-old boy who followed the police instructions to drop your gun. He did, hands up, and was shot. We know about Dante Wright, 20-year-old. And in that case, of course, the police officer said, oops, I thought my gun, I thought my taser, I thought it was my taser. Now you tell me, in those three cases, the 13-year-old black boy, the Latino boy, the 15-year-old black girl, the 20-year-old black kid, you think they're going to get the same kind of justice, do you? In some, we have body cams, right? So there is some video, but it is not quite as egregious, is it? Because it all involves split-second decisions that police have to make. There was nothing split-second about the 9+ minutes that Derek Chauvin took the life out of George Floyd. And so I am not assuming that this case is a harbinger of a lot of guilty verdicts against police officers who kill. What I think needs to be done, obviously, is some reformation, right? And it can't happen overnight. There has to be, if any of this is going to stop, a reformation of our very idea of what policing is. Because it has become something so violent, so warlike, so militarized, so shoot first, ask questions later, so hair trigger. The Reformation has to start with who can be a cop. I have always maintained that because, at least I know it's true in Pittsburgh and probably almost every other police department, that veterans, military veterans, are given a little bit of a leg up when they apply to be police. I don't think that should be the case. Because a police officer is not the same as a soldier. It is not the military. Okay, a former veteran knows something about, yes, being armed and taking orders and whatever, but mostly what soldiers are trained to do is kill. So why, if we're going to stop this, would we give people who have been trained to kill, right, in a whole other situational thing, trained to kill, why would we say you're exactly the kind of person we're looking for? That's nuts. The whole confusion about police and military, this total blurring of lines that has happened in the last, I don't know what, 20 years, 30 years, has got to be rolled back. It is not conducive to being a police officer, a peace officer who serves his or her community. It just ain't. Nor is all the crazy looking riot gear. Having cops who look like Darth Vader. That is not. It creates and has created a mentality. And the mentality is us against them. You can tell with protests. You could tell with the protests in Pittsburgh that the police view the protesters as threats, potential threats, as potential enemy. And they're on guard. They're outfitted for war. There were well over 100 protests last year in Pittsburgh because of George Floyd's death. And well over 100 of them were totally peaceful. And those in which some violence occurred, on occasion, it was started by troublemakers, a tiny minority of the people that were in the streets. And often it was caused by police overreaction. we've got to rethink what a cop is, what the job is. I think rather than looking for future police in the military, we should look in human services. We should look in people who are, trained to help people, social workers, people who know something about de-escalation of human situations, right? What exists in this country now is not acceptable. And innocent people are going to continue to die, especially innocent people of color, because this is, and if we haven't found that out yet, it is a country that we live in that is by nature, in the bone and blood, racist. And so I, being approached by a cop, do not have the same reaction as a black person being approached by a cop by virtue of what I know. I'm not seen as a threat. But we know even little black boys playing in a park with a toy gun, are seen as true threats. I think we have a caller. Go ahead, please.
Lynn?
Yeah.
I just going back to a point about the military getting extra points to be hired.
Yeah.
That's in all civil service type jobs. I found that taking civil service tests that the military who
gets
took
a few points
got extra points. Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't do it for police, because it's one thing if you're going into the civil service and you're going to be a bureaucrat somewhere. And it's another thing if you're going to have a badge, a gun, and other lethal weaponry. Because if you're trained as a soldier, you're trained to kill.
I have to agree with you, but I'm just saying that.
That's where it's from. Then there should be an exception.
Yeah,
then that's
sure.
where there has to be an exception.
Right.
That has to stop, because it's getting us the wrong people. And there has to be better psychological vetting, because how many veterans do we know who've been in these Afghanistan and Iraq and
PTSD,
who have PTSD? Yeah.
Right.
Who are easily made to feel threatened. Yeah. So what are we thinking? It's stupid. But I thank you for that piece of information. All civil servants.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye. Wow. Well, I saw somebody, and this is true too. All over the country yesterday, as soon as it was known that the jury had reached a verdict, what happened? What happened in police departments all over the country? They geared up for war. They geared up for war. They were in a state of high alert. Not just in Minneapolis, in Pittsburgh, in New York, in Paducah, anywhere. And again, that kind of knee-jerk response to people might be protesting in the streets. There's got to be something better. I saw a tweet last night. Somebody said probably the most important result of the verdict is that police all over this country have lost a chance to tear into protesters tonight. Yeah, I think that's true. But there will be other instances, and if we don't learn, if we are incapable of change, then George Floyd will be a one-off. The fact that he got a measure of justice, if not his life, he's got a measure of justice. That cop. And you can imagine, as I looked at Chauvin here, the sentence, I was thinking, what is going through his head? Such cognitive dissonance. Wait a minute, what? I'm a cop. Cops always get off. How dare they say I murdered somebody? We always. And you know what? That statement is still true. So, you don't want to read quite too much into this. I read something in The Atlantic that I think nailed it. And it is that this trial, this verdict, demonstrates why the courts will remain a challenging venue to reform law enforcement in the United States. It's not going to happen in the courts because other juries are not going to do what this jury did with all of its evidence. This jury could do nothing else. Again, and President Biden just nailed it. It was a murder in full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see. For so many, it feels like it took all of that, and he's talking about the video and the police turning on one of their own. It took all of that to deliver, for our judicial system to deliver just basic accountability. Right? Historically, murder prosecutions of police are rare. And not just rare, extremely rare. And among the very few cops who have been charged with murder, convictions are even rarer. In this case, finally, the prosecutors had an extraordinarily strong hand, and they played it impeccably, beautifully. So anybody who's thinking this is some exoneration of all of the past police killings and the future killings and lack of justice delivered by juries It's going to continue. There's rarely video evidence so clear and so compelling. And as I said, an officer who shoots somebody in a split-second decision is almost always going to be given the benefit of the doubt by a juror. Always. So this casual, cruel murder by Derek Chauvin was different in that respect. And if there is to be reform, it ain't going to come from juries. This is going to be and will have been unusual. Is there another caller there? If so, go ahead.
Hey, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, no, I was going to say the brazenness of that video just shows the license to kill that we have given the police for so many years.
That's right.
But when you were talking about the readiness of huge police forces to turn on its citizens, really, ultimately, this comes back to this whole fact that we have militarized, we have given the equipment
That's right.
to our forces, which started during the Bush era, right? Remember they started sending over all that surplus?
I don't know. I'm not sure which president. It could have been a Democrat or a Republican, because it was just, as usual with our huge bloated Pentagon budgets, we had given the military so much stuff that they couldn't, in fact, use, that somebody had the bright idea of, hey, let's give it away to the cops.
That's
and so
it.
you've got these little teeny departments in a town of 2,000 people that might have some tank, and that's when you started to see the SWAT teams come in. There didn't used to be these SWAT teams,
right? When you do a culture of aggression coupled with untrained personnel, and the culture of the police that gives license to kill, and then you equip them with toys, the toys of war on the homeland. I mean, this is what you get.
That's right. Exactly.
And I mean, we've just watched this. I'm in my 60s. I watched this progression, right?
Yes.
And
I still remember. Remember when Pittsburgh hosted the G20?
Yeah.
Then our studios were downtown on Smithfield Street, and I opted to stay overnight in downtown so that I could be certain that I would see anything that was happening. I have to tell you, as I walked through the streets of Pittsburgh that afternoon and evening, I have never felt such foreboding and such confusion, because it did not look like any city in a democracy should look. There were, if you'll remember, they brought in police from all over the country. It was an armed camp.
I live in Squirrel Hill, and I walked my dog up to the CMU campus. I'll never forget this either. And remember, they hosted at yeah, they had the dinner.
Yes.
Well, I was up on CMU's campus with my dog, and then right up around Flagstaff Hill, there were like snipers in the trees.
That's right. There were snipers on top of in the trees. Wow,
Yeah.
I could see out the window of our studio snipers on building tops all over the city.
And I suddenly got creeped out, and I saw these military, and I was like, I don't think I should be here.
Yeah, right.
Like,
you were not welcome. And you know what I thought at the time, and I'll say again, if that is how leaders of the world can only feel comfortable getting together to talk, then they should have their meetings at a military base somewhere, right? And let the rest of us live our lives. It's not that anyone coming from another country, any world leader, saw Pittsburgh. They saw an armed camp, which I guess is all they ever see.
Right, and that's why, and and what that does is militarizing the inner cities like that. I remember my shock at that, 20 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago, and it's lessened because over time, by the time I saw, the police forces, with long arms in East Liberty during the Black Lives Matter, you're thinking, oh, this is usual. Young people have no clue that this is not how things were or should be, and it's this, insidious, creeping in of whatever.
I do have to tell you that the first time I had this reaction, though, was when I was in my early 20s. So that's 50 years ago. The year was 1968, and I happened to be in school in Chicago, and I went down to visit a great aunt of mine who lived right off of Michigan Avenue. And when I got off the elevated train, I saw tanks with barbed wire on their fronts on the corner at the Walgreens. I mean, where I go, and soldiers in, and this was, a day maybe or two before the convention. And so right there, 1968, because they knew protesters were going to be, anti-war protesters were coming. So there was that reaction then, too.
I saw tanks in Pittsburgh in 1968.
Okay, there you go. So it's not all, I know, but
that was a far-off memory, but I had never seen anything like that until maybe starting how many years. And that felt like, I can remember, like I lived in Oakland at the time, and I could see the hill was on fire, the hill. And so I could see the smoke, and I'll never forget that my father came downstairs and he had a pistol. He had a holster and a pistol, and all the children were just like, what is going on? And like, where did that come from? And I don't know if he had that from World War II or something, because the guy did not carry guns. It was the only time I saw it. And I knew
and that came from stop and think what was happening. That you're talking about then, that horrible year, 68. So you're talking about the aftermath of the assassination of Dr. King.
Exactly.
And when Black America, in its anguish, rose up. And you look at all this stuff, and it's always, terror of what these black people and the white people who side with them sometimes might do. We've got so much work to do, and I don't know.
It's happening. It's happening slowly. And, I just keep telling, I was telling some 30-year-olds the other day that a couple of months ago that, progress is being made. I'm only in my early 60s, but I said, if you would have asked me when I was your age, did I think that we would ever have a black man as the president of this country? I would have said, absolutely not. There is no way that could possibly happen.
But you know what? But look at this. We did,
right?
And look what happened afterwards. White America recoiled.
Yes, it did.
And gave us Donald Trump, a white nationalist, white supremacist, and let all of the ugliness right out like it hadn't been since the Civil War. I mean, unbelievable. That was we elected a black man. And then the rest of America said, well, we'll put an end to that.
Right. Well, it's been exposed, and because that's a couple of years ago.
I appreciate you trying to see that there has been,
there has been progress.
Some progress, and I think George Floyd's death and the reaction to it has created more progress than I have ever seen. It has made any white person, any non-black person who has an open eyes, an open head, open heart. It has let them see for the first time, maybe, what it is to live in black skin in this country. And people who don't see it, who refuse to still see it, they're being willfully blind. And if they think they're not racist, I got news for them. And the rest of us who've seen it have so much more work to do ourselves.
Yep.
We really do. A lot of us are a lot more tuned in than we ever were before. That's progress.
I agree, and I can think of all the people I've had arguments with over the last 10 years people that do not accept that racism exists in this country. No.
Well,
no. Yeah, this is vehemently, and some people who consider themselves even sort of like
liberals.
Not liberal. Well, yeah, liberal.
Yeah, right.
Well, and it's like, that's over with. I remember a fight I had at a family function, and like 5 years ago, with a couple people turning on me going like, Louis, you're crazy. It doesn't exist anymore. We are so past that. And I'm like, you guys are clueless, right?
Well, we have a whole bunch. I mean, as you said, we elected a black man. How are we a racist country?
Exactly.
And in fact, that's what the Supreme Court, threw out almost every bit of the Voting Rights Act because, hey, we elected a black man. We got no troubles now. We don't need this stuff anymore. And yeah, it's bull. That's bull. So, well, let's hope.
It's all part of the process. I know. I do. I'm an eternal optimist. It's hard in the middle of it, but you have to realize how slow this change. This particularly is.
Oh, this is going to be it. I can't imagine. But thank you so much for your call.
Bye.
Thank you. So we get this verdict. That's good. But today the police are still the police. And greater minds than mine are going to have to figure out, what does it mean? What is it that we want from a police department? What is it we're asking of them? And I like the fact that maybe a few more cops in this country might be a little less willing to feel that they're not being watched or that they won't be held accountable. But there has to be a wholesale change. Monies have got to come out of this punitive policing and justice system we have and instead be invested in schools, in mental health care, in housing and social services and supporting communities. My God, we've got to put things on their heads. We have to have the courage to reinvent ourselves. I had a thought when I was driving that long drive from Pittsburgh to Green Bay, Wisconsin. At one point I saw, a few points, I saw state police having pulled someone over. And I had this thought, and I don't know if it's worthy of anything, but I thought, you know what? If every time you see that the police have pulled someone over and you can see that that someone is black or brown, maybe we should pull over too. I'm not sure what the law is regarding that. On a city street, it shouldn't be a problem. I know that we are able to stand there, as did Daniela Frazier, as police deal with a suspect, that you can stand there, you have the right to, and you have the right to record what's going on. And maybe what white folks can do, and black folks too, but what white folks could do is, if you're walking around, or if you're in your car and you see a stop and you see they got a black guy out, stop and take your phone out and just start recording. Is that a crazy idea, or is that something we could do? And if that were to become a thing, would not maybe a few lives be saved? I don't know. As I said, it's just a thought in my head as I flew through Ohio. And when I, walk my dog in my neighborhood, it seems like every other house has one of these Black Lives Matter or no hate here, or we believe in science and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I have to tell you, that doesn't change a damn thing. I mean, the negative word for it is virtue signaling. Look at us, we're virtuous. Don't think, and what's odd, and I'm not saying take all those signs down, but if you put a sign up like that, you've done nothing. Nothing. If you stop and photograph the arrest of a black man, then that's doing something. Action. And one of the amusing things I thought on this one street near my house, how house after house after house has one of these signs. And I know there's white people living in those houses, right? And then there's a house that doesn't have the sign. And guess what? There are 2 black children living in that house. I guess maybe they don't have to signal their virtue. 2 black children adopted by a white couple. There's no sign in front of that house. I'm sick of the signs. I'm sick of that. Because it does next to nothing. Next to nothing. And it's too damn easy. Anything that's easy, chances are it's not worth it. I think we need to get active. And I don't know if it would take some courage, I guess, to stop and make yourself a witness to a police interaction. And people have, police will act threatening in those cases, like, get out of here, you can't. And there's been many a case where someone who's doing that has refused to move. And believe me, it is within our rights to do that. The ACLU has done a million of these cases. You have the right to do it. And I don't know if any of you think that might possibly be helpful. But as I said, it's an idea I had, and I'm going to challenge myself. After all, I'm an old white lady. What are they going to do to me? We have another caller. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hello, LC. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Question. How come it's going to take 8 weeks to sentence this guy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the wheels of justice, who knows? There has to be an opportunity for the defense is going to file motions to appeal this or that. All kinds of stuff sort of happens before the final thing, which is the sentencing. And it shouldn't bother you because he is now a convicted murderer, and he's in jail, and he ain't getting out anytime soon. So what we don't know is, what the eventual sentence will be, but and that'll be something interesting too.
I guess it'll be there.
I read that the average sentence for second-degree murder in Minnesota is about 10 to 12 years, and that doesn't seem like enough to me. So we'll see. And they're going to appeal.
I thought it was 40.
No, that's they have a sentencing guy. It's I think 10 to 40 years or 5 to who knows what, because every murder is a little bit different, some more heinous than others. You can tack on. I would think this is one of the more heinous murders ever. And yeah, he should get 40 years. He should never see the light of day again.
Remember what Mick Jagger said in Sympathy for the Devil? Every cop is a criminal.
Yeah. And what's the next line? Every cop is a criminal, and all the something saints. Who were the saints? Every cop's a criminal, and all the saints. But the thing is, every cop is not a criminal. And, I don't go that far. I know I get into it with my son all the time on this. There are good police. But to be a good police now, what the police are going to have to realize, and legislatures could help in this way. Laws could be passed that say that if you're a cop and you do nothing to intervene when another cop is doing something like Chauvin did, then you too are in big, big trouble. And I don't know what's going to happen to these 3 other cops that have been charged. I don't know what's going to happen to those guys that stood there and watched and may have been appalled. But Chauvin outranked him, or he was more of a veteran, and they did what cops do. They just shut up and let the big bully do his thing. I don't know.
Well, now for something different.
Okay.
How's your back doing?
Oh, it's coming along. I need to be being better at doing my rehab exercises. They're so boring. So I have to rebuild up my my muscle strength, because for almost a year I was not able to walk very much. So, my legs are weak, but my back is good. They did a hell of a job. I am so grateful I did that. It's been good.
Well, that's great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Okay, I got 2 other things, okay?
All right.
One, your sister has an evil laugh.
Oh! Does she?
Can you see that?
Okay, well, oh, God. It's like a witch's laugh? Are you kidding? Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think when I hear a laugh.
Okay, well, I'll make a point of listening. Do I?
One other thing.
Wait, do I have an evil laugh? Wait, do I have an evil laugh? Because Susan and I sound so much alike.
Nah, not you. Not like her.
Okay.
Is Bill still in town?
No, he left yesterday. He left.
I was going to request if we could get him on the show for tomorrow.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I could by phone. What do you want to hear from him? Anything?
Just something different.
Well, we could. God knows he knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. Yeah, we could. No, it's just me and my mom now. I'm the last one here.
Where's Susan?
Susan's in Chicago. She has not been here. The reason I came is because Susan had to go back to her home because she's expecting a grandchild, her daughter's first child, and she wants to be there.
Oh, that's good. As long as she doesn't laugh at them.
Geez, Margaret's agreeing. Susan does have an evil laugh.
See that?
Should I tell Susan this? No, I'm not going to tell her this.
Maybe she could change the tune a little bit. I don't know.
But a laugh is so much, it's just it's you. Your laugh is your laugh. What is she supposed to do?
It's like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, geez. There, like that? No. Not
well, a little bit.
I don't know. Susan has a lot. Yeah, Susan has a lot more, sort of hostility in her, I think, than I do, and maybe it's showing that side. I don't know. Wow. I mean, if you were in a dark alley, which one of us would you rather bump into?
Well, you, of course.
Yeah, I don't seem as threatening.
I wouldn't want to bump too hard, but, Okay, well, listen, Lynn, see if you can get Bill on tomorrow and change the pace up a little bit, all right?
You're sick of this, huh?
Absolutely. Debbie Downer.
Oh, geez. I knew yesterday was a downer, but today, what was I supposed to talk about? Huh?
I don't know. Got to be some good news out there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, you find it and let me know, okay?
You got it, baby.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Debbie Downer. Yeah, I mean, I felt that way after yesterday's show. What a downer. Gad. Okay, so the Attorney General, Barbara tells me, has announced an investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department. Could, result in them having a consent decree. That happened. Come on. That happened to the Pittsburgh Police Department. What did it do? Did it reform the Pittsburgh police? I'm asking. I don't know. But I don't think. I really don't think it did. Is that a new caller? Clarence. I bet he's going to defend Susan. Clarence.
I'll make it quick. How dare him talk about Susan's laugh?
There you go. I knew it. See, I knew it.
No, but I was sitting there thinking, her laugh isn't evil; it's mischievous. Because I have a baby sister too, who every time she gets me, she got that little hee. It's that little mischievous baby sister laugh. It's a hee. It's not evil, but it's mischievous.
Okay, you're saying it's a baby sister laugh.
It's a baby sister laugh. My little sister likes to get me, and she always has that hee, gotcha kind of laugh.
Oh man!
I'll talk about cops some other day. I know it's like the end of the time. So
yeah, it is. But your general reaction when were you surprised?
Surprised? No.
Yeah.
No. Well, I was surprised when they said the jury has come back with the verdict that quickly. I said, that's a guilty verdict. You can't.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
that was the surprise. I knew he was guilty after that thing. But there was always that little seed of doubt that they might get off. They might have gotten off. But it was very small, like you said, with all the video and all the evidence.
Oh man! You know what? If they had acquitted him, yeah, the whole country should have gone up in flames. I mean, really, and you would understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it had been said, Black lives don't matter. You guys might
That's right.
admit it. Black lives don't matter. Just say
Exactly.
it.
Just say it. Right.
Yeah, just say it.
We've been very clear now. Yeah. Well, okay. You're such a gallant soul. I'll tell.
And I'm also going to disagree about bringing Bill on. I just woke up from Bill's Monday show. I fell asleep for like 3 days. I missed the show yesterday because Bill
had put you to sleep. Oh, that's
I'm kidding.
funny.
I'm actually joking because I listen to professors and all day long on YouTube. I'm sitting there listening to these long, big worded. I'm friends with Blovius, for Christ's sake.
That's true.
We're talking about a boring guy.
Yeah.
Right. You got 1 minute because it's a cop Blovius story.
Okay, but quick. Yeah.
Okay. Way back when Blovius had a place up on Troy Hill, him and a guy who was working on his place got into an argument. The guy threatened Blovius. Blovius called the cops. I'm there. The cops come up, and I'm like 20 feet away with my head down and my hands behind my side, right? Just, and they're sitting there arguing with the cops. The both of them are screaming with the cops and all this. I'm just standing there. I don't have anything to add. Blovius said, why did you say anything? I'm like, dude, in this situation with two white guys fighting, I'm the only black guy up here, I'm the one getting shot. I'm not saying a word. I'm like a statue. I didn't look up. I literally sat there with my hands on my side, kind of looking up, up to the top of it. I said, dude, I ain't saying nothing. That's not crazy.
Yeah. Well, yes, your survival instincts are intact.
When you were talking about taking pictures, old white lady, you go ahead and film them. I'm not stopping in the middle of a highway to film anything.
No, but don't you think that's something that white people could do?
That's one thing that they actually could do.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you think it's not.
Because I know I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Okay. No, and you shouldn't. No, it's something white people, especially old white people, should do.
Yeah. And I'm an old black guy. You know what I mean? With a voice, I could be all charming. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Well, thanks for the story. I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Have a wonderful day.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, you guys. Tomorrow, I don't know about my brother. I don't know about anything else. Somebody sent me something fascinating about, remember I was talking about eating songbirds yesterday, and this is more on that, which is appalling. But I am going to share it with you tomorrow. It's really something. Okay, that's a warning. Okay, all right. You don't want to talk about the police? We'll talk about eating little songbirds. You have a great day. Don't mind that snow. Don't mind it. It's gone. Going, gone. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.